All right. It's World Extermination Radio, and I'm 40 Ounce, and I'm here today with Goatlord.
Hello.
Okay, so we were just talking before the episode, and what were we talking about? Last time we did the show, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about some like Doom clones and stuff, like games that came out around the time that Doom came out. I haven't played a whole lot of them. I've only played Duke Nukem and a little bit of Wolfenstein 3D, if that counts. But you played a whole bunch of other ones, right? Which ones have you played?
Just to go over the list, there was not a whole lot, but there was Redneck Rampage, Shadow Warrior, Blood, Rise of the Triad, Blake Stone, Aliens of Gold, and that's one game, Blake Stone, Aliens of Gold, and Hurl 3D, which had a different name, I think, on release, but I played Hurl 3D, so that's kind of the main list from that era.
Okay. Which one was your favorite one?
Oh, Blood, easily.
Yeah? What's Blood about? I've seen, all I know about it is there's, all kinds of texture packs and stuff ripped from other games. So I've seen, the textures from the game.
Yeah.
And I can tell it's kind of it's like a horror game, obviously. What is the plot of that game? What are you doing?
Well, I remember being pretty thin, but, you play this, I guess, kind of supernatural character named Caleb, who is part of some kind of a cult, and he was a member of some kind of cult, and they, for some reason, someone within the cult, kills his girlfriend or his wife, and so he's just basically seeking revenge and killing the higher-ups, the people at the top of their little hierarchy or whatever, and it just basically means that you're out for revenge and you just kill all these crazy enemies, and it's just an excuse to really just play with the horror genre a lot, and lots of references to various horror movies, and sometimes literature, like Edgar Allan Poe is referenced, and
wow, like what? Like what examples? Like what kind of stuff are references to movies and things?
I remember there's Edgar Allan Poe's, I think there's a tombstone that says The Raven or something like that, and you can actually kill Jack Nicholson from The Shining. There's a frozen Jack Nicholson in a hedge maze, and there's Freddy Krueger's outfit is hanging on some on a wall, on a hanger or whatever.
That's so cool.
Or the mask. Is it Jason's mask? Sorry, I don't know my horror too well.
Well, it could be Michael. Jason had a hockey mask, and Michael Myers had that pale white face mask.
Yeah, that's hanging. Yeah, okay. The hockey mask is hanging on a wall in one scene, and these are just funny little things you would find, and there's really kooky kind of ideas for levels, like a grocery store or a shopping mall, but it's overrun with all this crazy, shit going on, this horror stuff, and it's very archaic looking. It kind of looks like the turn of the century, 1900s, and there's something just very archaic and old about it, and it's so excessively morbid and violent because they're these kind of human characters that wear robes. You might have seen them in some of the Monster Resources.
Yeah, I've seen they're cultists or something. They're these dudes with Tommy guns and stuff.
Yeah, and they sputter Latin phrases at you and have these weird sounds, and you can set them on fire with a flare gun and they will scream bloody murder. And watching them run around screaming on fire, it's so sadistic. One of the weapons is a voodoo doll, and it's fun to watch them just stab it and watch these guys just they're just bleeding out. And I mean, I normally don't really have such a sadistic side, but Blood really feeds into that more so than Doom did.
Well, it sounds like a kind of like a quirky B movie.
Yeah, because it's very silly. It's silly. It's not really the
it's tongue in cheek, right?
if anyone were to think that it was maybe it was offensive when it came out, but I mean, it's so cartoony and funny, and it's just really fun. It's well designed, and I mean, it has the build engine problems, like the fact that doors will like crush you to death instantly if it like slams into you, and you're like next to a wall. The door will just crush you. You know,
Yeah, what
shit
is it
like that.
about? What is it about the boom engine that's like so like clunky? Like I've seen speed
I
runs
don't
of
know.
Duke Nukem, and some levels you can beat in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I've seen a Duke Nukem speed run that just totally like glitches the game out horribly. And Duke Nukem 3D will typically crash if you go into no clipping mode and like try to go through a wall. And I remember being really, really pissed off when it was like I used to love ghosting around in Doom, and I remember playing Duke Nukem 3D, and like he makes kind of like that death, one of his like groaning death noises, and it just gets stuck, and he's like, oh, and I was like, damn it, you know? And then it would just go to the DOS screen. And it was a really unstable engine.
That's it's funny how clunky it is. Well, it's awesome that like it's weird that it's that clunky. That even though it came out around like the same time as Doom, and like Doom's engine is like so resilient.
It's not very glitchy.
Yeah, like I mean, I've seen like some speedruns. I mean, there's obviously like there's void glides and there's like wall running and things like that, but
Yeah,
it's all like pretty
yeah,
minor stuff. Like it's
yeah.
pretty hard to like break a level. Like at least to the
Yes.
degree that Duke Nukem and like Shadow Warrior and stuff like that do, because I've seen the speedruns and stuff of that, and it's just wild. It's wild what they do.
It's pretty entertaining, and it really goes to show why Doom stuck around.
Yeah.
I'll get to another one next. Well, is there another one that you want to hear about in particular? Did any catch your attention?
Well, what's your favorite thing about Blood?
Oh, okay, my favorite just thing. Period. The thing that
Yeah, just like how does it feel to play the game? Like what's the most fun thing about it?
I think the most fun thing about it is the atmosphere, which I
Yeah.
know that's a really broad thing to say, but these games are all very similar. Even mechanically, they're kind of similar, and what's going to separate them is the personality that the developers put into it, and it is oozing with personality. I think it's such a great send up of the horror genre, and it's so like you just get sucked into that world, and
Yeah.
that's what I love. Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
like Doom.
Yeah. Well, when I think of Blood, it looks way more cohesive than something like Doom is. Like Doom has got, I mean, it's got zombies, but it's also got like skinless like pinky demons, and then there's imps with spikes. Like everything's kind of and then there's like arachnotrons that are like robotic, and like it's kind of
Yeah,
like it seems like Doom is like more of a mixed bag than something like Blood is.
Blood does feel a little more complete because it's all horror and it's all kind of like a vintage horror.
Yeah.
It feels very consistent. Like and the enemies reflect that. There's like swamp men and like these burping plants that belch out these fireballs and these zombies, and it's like it's horror. It's
Yeah.
kind of
It's
it
really in
really
your face about it.
yeah.
Like Doom's a bit more it's a bit more vague. And I think that might be like one of the reasons why the modding community lasted so long is because you can kind of like make any kind of map you want, and it'll still kind of like fit within the Doom universe. Like you couldn't make ancient aliens in something like Blood. It wouldn't gel together right.
I think I've seen some clips of that. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm so behind. No, but you're right though. I've seen even with the stock textures, even without doing really anything visually new, people will get very inventive because even though it's sometimes frustrating that Doom's assets, stock resources can be vague, that vagueness lets you really play with its universe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how
And
I
you,
feel about it
yeah,
too. I think that's why mapping took off because you can pretty much make anything look like anything considering um, just how like reusable all the resources are.
yes. Um, well, I could talk about
Yeah, what's the next game you wanted to talk about?
Well, Redneck Rampage doesn't get a lot of attention. It has an even smaller community than Blood.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of silly. It seems like a joke game almost, does it?
Yeah, it definitely is the most entertaining. Like, well, no, Blood is more entertaining, but
Yeah.
it comes close because it's got this redneck thing going on, and you know, you've got like levels set in insane asylums or trailer parks. There's like an active tornado in a trailer park, and there's like kind of backwoods towns, and those are actually really great locations. And you're the thing that doesn't work about it, and the reason it probably didn't do so well is that you're like kind of just killing the same two redneck clones over and over. They're supposed to be like, oh, these aliens came and cloned these two rednecks to be evil redneck clones, and it's really just the game's way of pitting the same two sprites over and over. And you occasionally fight like 3 or 4 other main monsters, but it's really just this skinny redneck and this fat redneck that you kill over and over. And that gets kind of old, and it's mechanically really not great. It just, like, you know how sometimes aiming just feels shitty in a bad FPS? It just doesn't feel right, and the collision detection sucks, and it's one of those things that had a lot of love put into its look. But, and also, maybe this is unfair, but sometimes I just got lost, and I just gave up. Because I got through every single Blood level without a walkthrough. I got through every single Doom level without a walkthrough. So I feel if I can't do that, then the game must have somehow failed on a design.
Yeah.
Because I can get through these other games just fine. So, but see, that happened. I tried to play Hexen for the first time the other day and got stuck in the first level. I felt like an idiot.
I got stuck in Hexen too. I didn't get very far in that, and that killed the game for me because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just running around in circles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've heard people say good things about like the puzzles and stuff in the game, and maybe like the puzzles are so good that I don't even realize that I'm in a puzzle. Because like I
hate when that happens because I really don't want to cheat, but I also am getting very frustrated. So
yeah,
you know, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about Redneck Rampage other than it could have been really great, but the design was kind of weird and the mechanics weren't great, but it sure was funny. And like instead of like you know, your typical health and armor, there was no armor. You would get food to eat, like moon pies and like Twinkies and stuff, and that would kind of be like your health. But if you ate too much, you would start like inadvertently farting, and this would like wake up nearby enemies.
Oh my god.
That was kind of a really interesting mechanic because it's like, do you want to, you know, you can raise your health back up, but you're gonna like kind of.
But it's gonna make it harder for you.
And you could drink alcohol to boost your health, but if you drank too much, you would like the screen would blur and the controls would get all fucked up. So that was actually, I thought, really, really clever because I was always risking my ass if I was getting low in health to either start farting or start getting really drunk. And I just thought that was such an interesting mechanic. That was probably the most interesting thing about the game. But
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a neat idea, but it also had a rockabilly soundtrack, like Reverend Horton Heat and stuff like that, and so that was kind of cool. But I have the, you know, like the good old games version, which I don't think has the soundtrack, so I didn't get to hear it. But moving on, Blake Stone.
That's I've seen plenty of screenshots of it, and I think I played it before, but I don't actually remember getting very far. But it's a cool like Wolfenstein look-alike, but it's like set in the future instead of Wolfenstein, which is in the past.
It's probably the best Wolfenstein clone from that period, but it was very unfortunate because it literally came out the same week as Doom, and Doom crushed it.
I mean, fuck yeah!
Now now, if you remember, we talked about how much of a difference there was year to year in the 90s in hardware acceleration. That right there shows you how just using an engine that was like less than a year old compared to Doom.
Yeah, that's true. If you look at two different games that are like a year apart, like like from 2016 to 2017, like you wouldn't be able to pick which one came from which year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They all look the same.
And here you have two games that came out like almost at the same time, and they had completely different technology. So
yeah,
Blake Stone definitely added some neat features, but it was still an orthogonal engine. So I just don't like those kind of games. I don't like the cubist stuff. It's just not fun to me anymore.
Yeah, there's not a lot of depth to it. There's even as a level designer, I couldn't see myself having fun with it. There's just not a lot of room for innovation.
I mean, there are people that are bringing it back, like trying to make Doom-esque games. Like, okay, that's cool, but then there are people trying to do like more block kind of tile-based ones, and I'm like, that's going to be so boring. And
yeah,
Blake Stone suffers from that unavoidably, but you know, it had some light diminishing and some floor and ceiling textures, which is kind of cool. And it actually had a couple of features that were really ahead of its time. There were scientists walking around, and if you press spacebar, you could talk to them. And if they were kind of aggressive with you, then you could kill them. But if they were like being nice to you, then they might actually like give you power-ups or tell you something like how to find something in the level.
Oh, cool.
So that was a really neat thing, and you could go back to previous floors instead of just moving linearly forward. And if you wanted if you knew that there was something that you like a health kit from the previous floor or something that you could use, and there were like food and beverage machines that you had to like find coins and then spend them to get health from these machines. So that was actually kind of a really like that's almost like something from BioShock or something. And to see it that early, I think was kind of neat.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
It was sorry.
No, that's all right. That's kind of cool. The vending machines like pre Half-Life. That's pretty interesting.
Well, I guess Half-Life kind of did it first. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the first one I can think of that I know of. So what other games did you play? You said Hurl 3D. Do you want to talk about that one yet, or is there another one you want to talk about first?
Sorry, about which one? Oh, Hurl. Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
Okay.
I never even heard of that.
I'm going to just Google the proper name because I feel like it has two names. And it was so stupid. Like I said, it was an acronym. Let's see. I don't see it standing for anything, and I guess. Okay, so they were stupid enough to release it as Hurl. I thought that they had changed the name. Oh, okay. It was later re-released as.
Hurry up, rocket launcher.
Slob Zone 3D.
Slob Zone?
Slob Zone.
Oh my god.
And translated to German and released as Blub Schlumschlacht 3D.
Oh my god.
That's freaking hilarious. And Hurl stands for Hardcore Union of Radical Litterbugs.
Oh my god, what is this game?
So the whole point of the game is that you go around like cleaning up dirty animals by like chucking like soap suds and detergent at them. Yeah.
Whoa, I'm not even following what is going on here. It's called Glob Zone, and you're washing animals?
Yeah, you're just like, your weapons are just like cleaning utensils. And it was actually pretty entertaining and kind of had a lot of charm. And even though it was a Wolfenstein clone, it had a skybox like Doom, and they would try to use the orthogonal blocks, like sticking two of them together, and it was like, look, a bus, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cute. I kind of like this, and it was legitimately entertaining. And there actually was a couple of other gameplay elements. So I didn't play it much, but it was the weirdest one on the list. So I just had to mention it.
Wait, did you ever hear of that? There's like a Noah's Ark 3D game or something, right? Did you hear
Yeah.
about that? Did you ever play that before?
No, I just watched video.
Oh my god, I can't believe that even exists.
It's really Christian games are definitely always bizarre, but
yeah, because it's like trying to it's trying to ride the current of like shooter games that were like becoming all the rage, and it's like it's crazy that they would like try and like reverse like the object of the game to be like a good thing instead of a violent killing game. That's ridiculous.
Christian entertainment has this interesting outsider sort of thing to it because have you ever watched? I'm just going to get just slightly tangential, but sometimes I like to torture myself by watching this Christian TV channel that at night will show like Christian hard rock videos and stuff. And I sometimes just like to see the shit show because it's so silly. And I can see that this guy wants to be like a Christian Marilyn Manson. And it seems so weird. It doesn't seem like genuine. It's like, okay, what can I do to try to get more people to convert, And Christian games
you can just reach out to the Satanists.
Where it's like, it's not really about making a genuinely entertaining product. It's like, okay, so we got this Nazi killing simulator. How do we make it about Noah putting animals to sleep so that they'll go to sleep? And it doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah, the goal is to convert people to Christianity before it is to make a good game.
This huge fucking stupid maze. Why?
They're just like testing the game, and they're like, I'm not sure if people are going to go to church if they play this. That's like their actual like testing criticism.
Do you think there was even a single person who like maybe was like an atheist or something and played that and was like, oh, I get it now,
Oh, that's what this is about.
There's got to be like one person that happened to.
I would hope so. It would be sad if they had a 0% success rate with that game.
No, I don't think they got any conversions. I think that disappointed children who had really religious parents got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's probably the main demographic is these disappointed kids, and like, maybe some of them really liked it, because it was like a God game or whatever.
And then he went on to be like this activist to prevent like violent video games.
There's a whole wacky, weird story about the 3DO version of Doom and how the soundtrack was composed by a bunch of Christians.
Really?
Because, there was this Christian software thing that was supposed to make the 3DO Doom, and they didn't know what the fuck they were doing because they thought that if they went in Photoshop and made mock-up screenshots of the game, that meant that they ported the game. Like, they didn't understand, like, anything about, like, computer technology. So there was this woman that was talking about it on YouTube, and she had to basically do all this code work because this team was, like, so incompetent that they had no idea that you have to, like, type a bunch of code to convert. Like, I think that they just thought, like, they were just going to literally put the game on the 3DO, and all they had to do was, like, the art department stuff.
What did art have to do with porting the game?
I don't know.
That's a ridiculous. I know, it's so retarded.
I was like having I couldn't even comprehend how stupid that was. So this woman had to do all the coding herself, and she talked about working with this Christian team, and they made a deal with her, which was they were going to do the soundtrack since they fucked up so bad. And what they basically because somebody on that team was in like a rock band or something, like a Christian rock band, and so I guess a couple people got together and I don't know if it was one guy or a couple guys, but some people from this team put together I don't know, like maybe 8 or 9 original tracks because there was a really constrained kind of time budgety thing going on, and so the 3DO Doom soundtrack was basically made by some really desperate Christians who were trying to make up for fucking up the 3DO port, and these are like really excellent covers of a few classic Doom tracks.
They're my favorite. Like remixes of the original Doom tracks. I don't think I've ever heard, like, out of all the remixes and stuff that I've heard, like it only seems to it seems like the best out of all of them. It's like unique and it's got like its own like twist to it. It's really cool.
Yeah, and there's one that has like some horns. I think it's E2, the one for E2M1 maybe.
Yeah.
The one that's actually it's supposed to be AC/DC's big gun, but they like. Oh, no, I don't remember, man. But there was one that had some like.
There was one. There was it was E3M1, I think. It has like these trumpets and
yeah.
And it's like it's really weird.
Yeah. I was like, this is so great, and so the story. I just wanted to share that bit of trivia because it's such a bizarre like fuck up from this. I mean, to think that like, oh, we made like a mock up of what the game might look like. It's done,
Oh my god. I know. I couldn't imagine that poor woman. I couldn't imagine working with people like that.
Yeah.
Like I deal with that enough at my job, like having to deal with people who don't know how to do their own jobs.
Yeah.
And like have to like explain it to them and be like, why am I explaining this to you? Like, how did you get the job that you have if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing? But I don't really have to deal with it that often. But that crew sounds awful.
Yeah, that's so weird. I think they kind of didn't do anything after that. I think they might have made some Christian games or something. I don't know. But let me talk about Rise of the Triad briefly.
Okay.
So there was a reboot of that recently, and I actually at the QuakeCon they showed the 2014 version of Doom, like just a real early version of Doom 2016. This was even further back. This is like QuakeCon 2012. Yeah, they were letting people do multiplayer with Rise of the Triad, and it was pretty cool. And it was actually a lot like the original. And it was an Apogee game that was supposed to be a sequel to I think it was either supposed to be a sequel to Wolfenstein or a sequel to Spear of Destiny, but it was supposed to be like a follow-up to Wolfenstein in some way.
Wow.
And it was, going to be a bigger, badder game with a bunch of engine upgrades. But eventually, for whatever reason, it became an Apogee game, and then they completely de-Wolfensteined it, and it became what it is. And it has actually some very interesting engine features. You can look up and down, which was pretty rare for a game at that time.
Yeah.
And there was a simulated room-over-room effect where the Doom equivalent would be like if you were walking on top of a mid-texture. There was of an effect like that to simulate like a higher altitude. You could set the altitude for the level, but not for any individual tile. So the entire level had to have the same floor and ceiling height. So what they would do is they would either have these like almost like mid-texture like things you could step on that were above, slightly elevated, or there were also these like little pads that were like these anti-gravity pads that were
I've seen those. They're like sprite based, right? And you can stand on them and they like kind of lift you up and down.
Yes, and these sprites had height information, so you could stack them so they were almost like a staircase made of sprites. So there was this sense of there being different altitudes, but it was very hacky.
Yeah.
And it had transparent doors, which is like a really hard thing to do in vanilla Doom.
Yeah.
And it had moving tiles. Some of the tiles could be programmed to like move back and forth, not just push walls, And so, and there was some like kind of fogging and light diminishing effects that seemed slightly more advanced than Doom in some regards, but it was still a fundamentally tile-based game, so there just, wasn't much you could do with it. it was also very ahead of its time in the sense that you could only, I think you had like a two weapon limit. So
Oh,
that
really?
was kind of neat.
Wait, so do you have to like swap weapons and stuff?
Yeah, that really confused the hell out of me as a kid. I was like really pissed.
Yeah, why can't you carry all 7 guns like you can in Doom?
Yeah, so sometimes the enemies would like get on their knees and beg you not to kill them, which was a really kind of made me feel bad when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I sometimes they would also play dead, which was kind of neat. And it was neat. It was still way behind Doom technologically, so it just didn't do very well.
Yeah, that was that thing about like people like begging for forget or like begging for mercy or whatever. I always thought that was really weird too. When I played Duke Nukem 3D for the first time, there were like some parts where like the aliens will like get on their knees and they're like choking to death on their own blood, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to kill him.
Yeah.
I think he's I mean, I think he's suffering enough. It was like it was really it was actually like kind of, I don't know, it was eerie for me.
Well, there's very violent moments like that. I remember, this is a little weird, but this has been brought up in the forums so many times. But the weird butthole on the Doom 64 end, like when I first noticed it, that kind of like made me squeamish in a way, because I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be like that I somehow shot him in his asshole, if like they just have really weird, creepy alien anuses or something. And just those kind of like touches when you notice them, or like the first time you kill a stripper in Duke Nukem 3D and they go and all the like bloody money. It's like I was like, ugh,
Yeah, it is weird. I got in an argument with somebody once. I forget who it was, but I was talking about how the dogs in Quake, how I get kind of like iffy about killing dogs in Quake. And I'm not, and it's not even about like I know it's fake, and I'm not like advocating that I hate animals or whatever. I mean that's a ridiculous thing, but and I wasn't really that weird about it like in the past when I first did it, like when I first played Quake for the first time, but I wasn't a dog owner then, and I'm a dog owner now, and like for some reason the sound of a dog like kind of like whimpering like that is really, it's like kind of disturbing for me.
I'm not a dog person, and it disturbs me too. It was definitely a very like dark choice.
Yeah.
For an enemy, and especially if you give the dog and like you can see its severed head.
Yeah. Well, that was even
pretty easily, yeah.
Well, even like blowing them up into pieces was like a little more satisfying, a little more like a little more satisfying and gamey to me than like actually like shooting it. It seems almost, I don't know. It's just weird to me. I'm not really sure what it is, but I don't know. Like I'm totally okay with killing all the monsters and humans in the world, but dogs just like cross the line for me. I don't know what it is.
No, it's because we're humans, and if we have a good moral center, we recognize that we have a responsibility to be kind to other animals, and in a way almost kinder to them than we are to ourselves, because like we kind of like, oh yeah, people blow each other up, but you don't want to see that happen to an animal,
Yeah.
So that was kind of a brave kind of character choice, and I also remember the people the naked like castrated people that were like hanging in the ceiling on like and Quake.
Yeah.
That was the decorative things.
Ooh.
You remember?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that kind of thing creeped me out too. And I remember like when they first showed Quake Doom at E3 in 2014, and I first saw the glory kills. That my stomach was churning. Like that was really disturbing, because I'd never seen anything that gory in a game before. Because I don't really keep up with games, so like because it was the one where the imp like puts his hands up and it just completely cuts through, and like they just fall in half, and I'm just like, oh my god. And it's so funny how it's still really shocking. Like I've been playing Doom for a year now, and sometimes I'll just do a glory kill and be like, whoa, and like it's like I'm used to it, but it's still very visceral and shocking in a way. And that's even Doom, the original Doom. Like if you really inspect like the jibbing animations of like say the shotgun guy or something, it's like pretty grisly.
Yeah, you can
stuff.
see the rib cages, and you can see like the parts of his
Yeah.
head. It's like, whoa, man! It really. Oh, like even what was kind of funny is in like Half-Life, if you like give the humans like you can see the individual body parts like every like if all the body parts that fly around like you'll see like a heart, you can see like an actual like liver, and like like the chunks of the people are actually shaped like human like anatomical parts like.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know how much further I'm okay with it as far as the realism goes, because like Doom is kind of crazy, so I don't care. I don't want to play a game where I'm doing that to like humans, like chainsawing them in half like that, because when it's zombies or monsters, that's acceptable. Humans, it's like kind of creepy, like that.
Yeah.
There's that shooter that came out that was just like this angsty, wet dream of a shooter. I don't remember. It was Hate, I think.
What was it?
I think it was called Hate or something.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that.
Maybe.
I remember seeing videos for it. Yeah.
Just mowing down like innocent people. Like I don't want to play games like that, and I don't know how realistic I'm okay with it being before. I'm just like I'm gonna puke in my lap now. So it's kind of interesting, like where it's going and stuff. I think it'll probably reach a point where we know, okay, we don't need to take it further than this, but I don't know what that point is.
Yeah, I got that way playing from like games like Grand Theft Auto, especially like Grand Theft Auto 3 and up. Is it just got a little too realistic, and the thing I like the most about Grand Theft Auto are the police chases, and the fastest way to do it is to just like get a machine gun and start shooting at a bunch of innocent people, or like or just running them over. And like I don't really want to kill these people. I just want to deal with the police, but I don't know how else to do it.
I like the cartooniness of GTA. It makes it fun to do that rather than like disturbing. But,
yeah, in Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2 especially.
Yeah, and I played a lot of 3 back in the day. That was like a big part of my high school. Like high school is something, like there's just certain things you think of when you think of being that age, and being, just being wowed by GTA 3 and just how massive and how much it accomplished was pretty neat. But I was going to mention Shadow Warrior.
Yeah. Okay.
So Shadow Warrior was probably the most similar to Duke Nukem 3D in that it was a semi-futuristic kind of like, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis sort of like action film sort of thing. And it was fun. In the shareware, I remember the shareware blew me away, and then the actual retail was, pretty good, and it never quite like lived up to what the shareware offered, I guess, in terms of like level variety.
Yeah.
It was weird. I don't know. It just wasn't as good.
Yeah, it's a shame how Doom's kind of like that too. Like all its best levels are like right up front.
Yeah. But it's fun, and it had a really wonderful visual style, and I think it might have been the most advanced of the build games because it came really close to being 3D-ish, and it used voxels for some of the graphics, which was kind of neat. Blood did that too.
That's pretty cool. That's 3D Realms does like a lot of they're very like comical type of games. Like it's interesting how they have like such kind of like random styles for their shooter games. It's cool.
Well, Blood was initially a 3D Realms game, and then they, for whatever reason, the project got handed off to Monolith Productions. But it wasn't originally 3D Realms, but
oh, okay. I thought it was 3D Realms.
Well, it certainly has the feel of a 3D Realms game, and Shadow Warrior is, like I said, it's actually pretty decent, and the fact that there's like undead samurai is a neat enemy type, and the fact that you can use your sword is your sword is actually a really prominent weapon in the reboots. It's just like a melee weapon in the original. It's also a lot more racist, which what they gave him just the most ridiculous voice for the original. He's like, "Who wants some wang?" And
oh my god!
I think it's funny because I'm very crass and lowbrow like that.
Yeah,
but they gave him, like, I guess a respectable kind of voice in the new one, and to me, it's like I don't think there's anything wrong with it being stereotypical. He's a badass. He's awesome. Like he's cool. Like so what if
yeah?
Like he's cartoony and silly. Like they kind of made him too serious in the reboots, but I get it. You know.
Yeah.
But he was probably the most entertaining personality. Because he was just so over the top, and he was pretty quotable, and I love his character design too. Just this badass samurai, and you could throw like shurikens, like throwing stars, and that had maybe the best shotgun of any build game. That had such a brutal shotgun because like it had this alternate fire. It was actually called a riot gun. It's sort of like this very souped up, I guess, like SWAT level shotgun, and the alternate fire, which would empty the entire clip or not clip, but I mean, you could have like 8 rounds at a time or whatever, and it would empty it all at once, just tut, you know, or at least it would do like multiple rounds, and you had a rocket launcher, and you could outfit the rocket launcher with an actual nuke, and it would like just devastate, the enemy. And
holy Christ,
there was a railgun, which was cool. And it looks exactly like the railgun in Eraser. Remember that movie?
I actually never saw that movie.
It was a kind of somewhat forgettable, but kind of okay Schwarzenegger, like mid-90s Schwarzenegger, and there was a railgun in that movie, and you pick one up that looks just like it, and Lo Wang will just be, just like a racer. It's really stupid. It's fun, It just is not. It's not as good as Duke or Blood.
What is the most fun weapon to use in all those games? Like, do you have like a favorite?
Like out of all of them?
Or in any of the games, I don't know. Like, or if you want to separate it out by game.
Well, I guess just when I think of like fun weapons, I think of Blood's Tommy gun and dynamite.
Yeah, the dynamite. I remember seeing videos of that. That looks cool.
There's like 3 different kinds of dynamite, and it's so fun to use. And I the Tommy gun was also, and then Blood, Shadow Warrior's kind of riot gun, and those are kind of the ones I usually think of. So, honestly, that's probably comprises the main list. I think the only other shooters I played from that era were the early 3D ones, like Chasm.
Have you ever played like the reboots of any of these games? I know you said you played Shadow Warrior. Did you ever try like the newest?
No, I didn't play Shadow Warrior. I just knew about it.
Oh, okay.
The new one.
Did you play any of Rise of the Triad or like Duke Nukem Forever?
Geez, I only played the multiplayer Rise of the Triad when I talked about doing that at QuakeCon, and that was my only exposure. I wanted to play Duke Nukem Forever, but and call me a prude, but some of the sexual humor and some of the crudeness of it to me seemed a little. It was kind of a turnoff. I kind of felt like I don't want to feel dirty while I'm playing a game.
Yeah, throwing poop.
Because like it starts with like 2 women like blowing Duke or something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all right. Like I just don't. I think it's kind of tacky.
I thought so too. I watched a video of it, and like I watched them play like the first like 10-15 minutes, and it's all just like people talking to you and telling you how amazing you are. It's like, oh my god, it's Duke Nukem. Oh my god, the world's going to be safe now. It's Duke Nukem. And it's just like, okay, I understand that I'm like the coolest guy ever.
Right. Yeah, I get what they were doing, but it's a little like maybe I don't want to say too immature because I love immature shit because I love Duke Nukem 3D, but Duke Nukem 3D wasn't necessarily like innocent, but it was silly, and I think that this tried to be a little too crass maybe, and but I kind of want to play it because it kind of I'm a Duke Nukem fan. I love Duke Nukem 1 and 2.
Yeah.
When they were side scrollers, those are great games. So I'm a fan of the series,
Yeah, I think like what bothers me about some games is and Duke Nukem Forever is no exception, but especially in like these reboots, they almost kind of make out the main character to be like way more badass than they were depicted in the original games. You know what like the thing about like I think some people complained about this in the newest Doom game is that you're depicted as like the super strong, like unstoppable guy, and it gives you that impression immediately up front. Whereas in like regular Doom, when you play it for the first time, you almost, even though you are like really powerful, you almost feel like you're just like a survivor, like you're on like you're just like living by the skin of your teeth, and like it feels like almost a little more desolate that way. Whereas in like these reboots, they almost kind of like they just make you seem like the hero already because you won the previous game, and you're just coming into the game with that kind of like already built up reputation, and it just kind of like there's something about Doom that makes me feel insignificant, and I didn't really get that impression when I was playing the new Doom game.
That's a really good point. I didn't think like it makes sense with Duke Nukem because this is a direct follow up to Duke Nukem 3D, but Doom 16 is a reboot, but it is sort of like saying it's the Doom guy you know and love, but he's bigger and badder. And
yeah,
it's like, well, he was already pretty cool. Like, and look at the box. I've talked about how the box art in Doom is you about to die. So it's supposed to be about you being helpless. And look at the box art of the new one. It's him being confident, nothing's in his way. And I get it, but yeah, you do lose some of that, especially with like PlayStation Doom with the atmospheric music. You really get that sense of like I'm screwed here. This is so desolate. Like I like that more than like he's a badass and he's like it's like not as fine.
Yeah, you just kind of like go into this game and you already know that you're Rambo, and you can like nothing can kill you, even though you are like pretty. What I did like about the game, especially though when I played it, is that when you do die, you get to watch those fatalities that the monsters get to do on you, and that makes you like that makes the monsters look a lot more brutal than you would think they are when you're the one glory killing them.
Even though that pisses me off, because it's like, oh, I lost. There's something about like, especially when like the Hell Knight, because I get killed by the Hell Knights pretty regularly.
Yeah, the way he like curb stomps your face, that's fucking awesome.
Like I'm like already dead, and he's still knocking me around, and like that's pretty badass. So they do maintain that in a sense, and they do overpower you with those waves on purpose. But like for instance, I don't know, like the Berserk pack is sort of that Berserk module or whatever, and it's cool. But I almost feel too powerful when I have it.
Yeah, does it just like make you unstoppable? Because all I did was I played it on the PS4, so I got the Berserk, and I just everywhere I ran I was just tapping the glory kill button, and I would just like magnetically attract to any monster that was around me.
Yeah, it's a one hit one kill thing, but you're not invincible, and you can still die during a glory kill. So
oh really? You can actually get hit?
I've been killed during glory kills many times, where like an imp just decided to be like, well, fuck you, and like hurls a deadly fireball at me while I'm like, messing somebody up. And
oh, that's bullshit, because you're like actually doing that to get the health. It's annoying that would even be possible.
Well, I appreciate them for, maybe it's because I'm on nightmare mode, I don't know, but I it happens from time to time, and I appreciate that they're not willing to let you be like in Brutal Doom, you're invincible, I think, during the fatality, but you do expose yourself a little bit in Doom 2016, so it's kind of the fact that they do that, I can respect that. But
Yeah.
these reboots do paint them a little like too badass, and it's maybe they're too eager to like, I don't know, just paint a new, have this new fresh coat or whatever. But I haven't really played many reboots, to be honest. I'm very behind with games.
Yeah, me too. I don't really play much of anything anyway. I just watch a lot of videos and stuff. I did want to ask you a question. I thought you'd be the right person to ask about this, since you're like a fan of Doom 2016. Have you been messing around with SnapMap at all?
I finally did for the first time like a week ago, and it was kind of funny. I only did it because the multiplayer wasn't working, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll finally look at SnapMap, and I spent about half an hour rotating modules.
That's all I did too.
That's about all you can do with the actual layout. I didn't really I know that there's some cool AI stuff you could do, but I just wanted to mess with the raw layout. And after about 20 minutes or so, I had this little hellish scene that I thought was really nifty. But I thought about the fact that I didn't really, quote, make any of it. And I thought about the fact that I can't really control much of anything inside of it. And I can't really connect any pieces to it in any compelling way.
Yeah.
Because there's usually only like one entrance or something. And I was like, fuck, I felt like that I came across the limitations a lot more quickly than I thought I was going to, as far as like layout goes.
Yeah, well, this is the question I was wondering about, since we were just talking about like all the engines and stuff of different games. Like, one of the thing the thing that gives Doom mapping so much character is you can draw the shapes yourself, and it makes you feel like the level is yours. Like you can't do that with something like SnapMap. But I was wondering, like, since all these games are so advanced now, is it even possible that like an editor can even exist that will actually make like levels that feel like yours, like they're your own drawings, but actually like compete with like video games of today? Like, will they even look good? And like I don't even know, like there's something like about Doom that has that like that really happy middle ground where it's just like it's kind of gamey, but it's also like you can make something realistic too. But it's like your own creation, like you're not using these prefabricated pieces like SnapMap is. So like I guess what my question is like, do you think that it's even possible that they could make an editor that's like both fun to use and also like gives you your own like creative like ownership to it?
Well, this is a good chance for me to go into some bizarre rant about technology.
Yeah, please do.
I don't know if it's going to be 1 year or 10 years or however many years, but I think eventually you're going to have algorithmic kind of AI-driven editors that are really just about endless keywords and ideas. Like it would be like you're talking to somebody who can just make it for you on the spot. Like I want to put a triple computer, like a 3-screened computer terminal here, and then I want like it connected to some kind of electric generator, and there'd be stuff that already is in the game that looks like that, and it's like, well, what do you think of this electric generator? And you would basically just be having a conversation with an AI that will build it for you, and you would be like, no, that's not what I want, and you would have full control over everything.
Oh, so you would basically just be like a director telling other people what to do, or other AI.
Well, you would have this multifunctional AI that would basically just handle everything the engine would conceivably do that you would want for this mod. And if you want to think in terms of like the way you would map for Doom, you would imagine what you want, like some long winding staircase leading into an equipment room or something, and the algorithm would know what those ideas mean because the game already has stuff like that, and I think it would also just draw from like its own knowledge of what things are, and it would help you build this thing. And okay, I want it to be red. I want the light. Like instead of having to meticulously place every light, you might say like, I want this room to have sufficient lighting, and I want a couple of them to be like kind of like messed up and blinking. Like you would really just be giving general directions, and it would do exactly what you want.
That's actually kind of genius. Did you read about that somewhere, or did you just kind of make that up?
All my speculations come from reading about stuff that's like that. I can't think of an example of anything specifically like that, but when I think about how AI is assisting us in so many ways now, I just extrapolate and think about like probably the most efficient thing to do is to have a conversation with something that will help make the thing for you,
Yeah. Huh.
So it would just be like an intuitive editor. Like monster modding will be a breeze,
Yeah.
because I want a three-headed imp with a cyber demon's butt and the revenant's legs or whatever. You would just have this. You could do whatever you wanted, or you could be like, I want a pain elemental with two mouths like Doom 64, and it might even understand. Oh, okay, Doom 64, and extrapolate from that. This is many years down the line. This is like AI really. It would almost be like if you told a 3D artist, like, can you make the Doom 64 pain elemental and put it in the game? Okay, something that would take this artist months to do is generated by the computer, in a few moments. So, and you would, make little corrections and specify what's wrong with it and all that kind of stuff until it's the way you want it to be. And yeah, so it's just intuitive conversations with an AI.
Huh. So that's kind of, so I guess that's your answer, to like, I guess it would be kind of like yours, because you would be telling it what to do, and you would be able to stop it if it's like doing something that's like a little bit off of what you wanted it to do.
Yeah, I think you could get as specific as you wanted, and I think that you would be able to use some intuitive tools for making your own content as well. Like, and again, it would just be, director is a good way to put it. You would be acting as like the director of the play.
That's pretty cool. I did want to ask you some stuff about what is I know you mentioned that you kind of wanted you had some like pretty interesting like political views and like religious type stuff. I don't know, like we talk about this stuff like on Doom. We used to talk about this kind of stuff on Doom all the time. Like there used to be like religious threads and stuff like that. You don't really see anything like that.
I noticed a lot of people just would get pissed off, or maybe I didn't make my message clear, or maybe they just thought I was crazy, and so I kind of like, I don't know if it's really worth the, the drama. So I don't do a lot of that these days. But
yeah, well, it seems like it's gone forever. It's like I actually made a thread about it recently, and this is going to be me explaining myself once again. But I made a thread about it where it seemed like nobody's really like talking about really personal stuff anymore, and I feel like I felt to some degree that like the new forum software and like the way social media is going, people are like more protective of their more personal like interests and beliefs and stuff. Like they kind of speak more sarcastically because like if I guess like people are like latching on to everything they disagree with and just getting in like these long forum debates and these long strings of comments and stuff. And
there's this. Sorry.
It's one of the reasons I'm so glad I'm doing this like radio show now, because now I'm like talking to people directly and like learning about like who they really are. And it seems like I can't really get that from the forums anymore. And it seemed like that when I first signed up. It seemed like a lot more people were like posting like threads about like pretty like personal stuff in their lives, like they're I don't know, like any kind of like political beliefs and stuff, and religious stuff and like all kinds of like controversial topics and stuff. But you don't really see any of that anymore. Most people are just kind of like, hey, do you like video games? I like video games too. And there's not a whole lot. There's not a lot of depth to the conversation. But I made this thread about it, and everybody like lashed out at me.
I think that there's it's almost like the elitism has always been there, but the role has changed. Because I remember in the early days of the forum, the elitism was mostly about just the fact that, you know, I'm internet savvy and fuck you if you're new. And, you know, I get that. We were all like that back in the early 2000s because it was still kind of a me thing. Like, it was like not the accessible thing it is now. But it seems like now people are more tolerant about like being less like, well, yeah, just we're all here on the internet talking, you know, this is cool. But then there seems to be this new tension about like which subjects we can talk about, and like, oh, I don't know, you're talking about some weird shit now, or like, well, that's offensive, don't say that, you know, whatever. And
yeah, that's so weird that people like. I was just having this conversation with Doomkid in the last episode where we were talking about how like some topics are just too sensitive to talk about, and it doesn't make sense to me because if you're really trying to come to like an agreement about something, people have to be allowed to share their actual perspectives. And it doesn't always mean that they're trolling or being, being rude or trying to be offensive or anything. They're just talking about their real life experiences, and you're kind of like expected to come like, because there's all this information and stuff out there on the internet. You're supposed to come like saturated with it, and you can't just talk about things that happen in your normal everyday life.
I'll tell you one thing, man. Like, pretty much nothing is going to offend me, and nothing is going to, like, things will make me squirm, but I'll still talk about them. I mean, I have sometimes been viciously insulted on the forum to where I've seen other people get insulted like that, and this really stupid drama will play out for like a whole page, and then it's like, shut the fuck up, guys, and then we try to get back on topic. I'm just like, well, I don't really believe that.
Yeah.
I don't really. I mean, like, it kind of hurts because any insult does hurt, but I'm just kind of like, that's not really true, but whatever. I just don't really have the energy or the hatred to just be like, quoting them, and like where they'll quote somebody.
Yeah, because it'll take up your whole day just keeping up with that argument. Like, you'll just be like even when you're done posting about it, like, you'll just kind of like walk away and carry that argument with you and think about, oh, what am I going to say next, and like all kinds of. It's just kind of like you get like sucked into it sometimes.
I'd rather get excited about having an interesting debate with somebody or something rather than like, how can I like make this person look like an asshole or something. So. But I mean, I do sometimes make people look like assholes, like in Facebook groups and stuff, but it's not because I am trying to be a jerk. I'll just lay down some logic on somebody who doesn't want to hear it, and they'll exit the conversation, or they'll just start like cussing at me, and I'm like, you're being very childish. Like, I'll just say stuff like that, and they just get so fucking mad because it's like, well, you are, so just be an adult so we can debate this stuff. Probably some of my views, if I were to share some of this stuff in the forum that I've kind of been pondering lately, I'm sure some of it would go over okay, and some of it might be like, okay, you're kind of nuts. But when it comes to politics, I'm pretty ignorant on that. But I tend to feel that whether you're on the left or the right, the politicians that are kind of at the top of things in those ideologies, they're not looking out for your well-being. They want to keep their jobs. They want to expand the government. They want to get people riled up and mad at each other so that you'll join their team, and then they'll join your team, and you switch the name of the game when the season calls for it. I mean, Trump was a Democrat, and then he switched to Republican for the campaigns because that's what was going to work for his kind of personality, and that's, to me, indicative that it doesn't freaking matter which side try to, like, it's, I like to use I just like to say it's all garbage, it's and I'm not saying that, like, if you want to be a part of that, fine. I'm not going to look down on you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you want to be a part of something, but I think that it's a dead end and a trap because look at how they've demonized each other. The left has become a bunch of, now this is not me saying this is like how the right sees it.
Yeah.
Or the extreme right. To the extreme right, the left are a bunch of fascist pussies who
are all about political correctness and
who are like the speech police.
Yeah.
And then like the extreme left is like everybody in the right are just a bunch of like hate mongering Nazis who want to like kill black people or whatever. So it's so stupid, and
yes.
Everybody just wants everybody to be the enemy, and then the people who are not crazy, who are just moderate, they end up getting lumped into the extremist category simply for belonging to the left or the right. And that's kind of not fair, you know, because people who get labeled SJWs are sometimes people who just legitimately care about positive change for you know, I don't know,
for society, and
you know, whether it's gays or blacks or whatever, if there's something going on, you know. But then there are people who are just doing it because it's trendy or because of an agenda or whatever, and they're making everybody else look bad, but everybody ends up getting labeled an SJW whether their intention is good or not. So,
well, I think that's where the issue is, because the way I see it is I don't often see people coming up front and identifying as being on the left or on the right. It's people being told what side they're on.
It's more like the other person is trying to label them.
Yeah, and like there's really only, you can either be Hitler or you can be a communist. I mean, this is the only options you have. That's kind of how you get depicted. As soon as you mention anything that even sways or leans in any certain direction, people know which side you're on, and they call you like the worst example of it.
And then calling somebody a cuck or a Nazi or a libtard or a snowflake, all these stupid words that I just, you know, it's just one constant facepalm for me, the insults they fling back and forth. And it's, I looked into libertarianism because I wanted to see what a nonpartisan option was, but I don't necessarily fully trust libertarianism because, I mean, no system's perfect, but libertarianism leaves the government stuff in the hands of private corporations, and I don't know if I really feel like that would work better. Maybe it would, but so it just seems very complicated, and I don't think it gets solved by appealing to partisanship, and I don't think that a third party is automatically the answer. So, you know, I just kind of look at it from the outside, you know.
Yeah. How about religion? Do you believe in God, Goatlord?
Well, that question is hard to answer because the term God can have, like, there's the really arcane definition, which is like a literal, like, humanoid supreme being.
Yeah, the white cloak and the beard.
Contemporary Christians tend to abstract God into some sort of energy or force because that is more in line with modern science, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't appeal to it. So I don't think modern Christians tend to see God as literally humanoid. I think some of the nutty ones do, but I think a lot of the contemporary ones abstract God. And so that's another definition. And some people just abstract it further and say, like, oh, God is love, you know, or God is like all of reality, which is like the pantheistic view.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, and I'm trying to answer this question for you, it's just that if I just say yes, you know, it doesn't really change.
Yes. Next question.
A couple thousand years ago, if you look at literature, and I'm not very well read, but ancient literature does not feature like inner dialogue. It's everybody speaks everything. And that's because the idea of thinking wasn't really understood very well. Like if you heard a voice in your head back then that was like you were possessed or some kind of divine something was speaking through you. There was not this understanding that that's just you.
Yeah.
Now I think God came partly from trying to reconcile this weird inner monologue. And I think God also came from psychedelic use, which is very prevalent in ancient cultures, pre-Christian cultures especially. And even Christian, there's a lot of references to, it's not psilocybin, but there's a special mushroom that's commonly called the Mario mushroom, and it looks just like the Mario mushroom. It's like red with white spots.
Yeah.
That does have psychedelic properties, and it is sometimes seen in ancient Christian artwork.
Yeah, I think I've seen that before. Or I've heard like an article, or I think I read an article or something like that.
And I think that probably is a bit more than speculation. There is that more than likely there. Yeah, sorry, the mushroom is called. Shit, sorry, I googled it. I was looking it up. Something Banisteria? No, fuck. I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
it has
that's
a weird
okay.
name, but it's a psychedelic compound, and ancient cultures used various psychedelic compounds, and I think that the avatars and the archetypes that showed up in those visions probably were the basis of God, along with this weird relationship with our consciousness. And humans also must have recognized early on that the world appears to be designed because there's a lot of geometric consistency in nature.
Yeah.
And I think that these ideas became God. So I do kind of believe in it in the sense that I think that it's an attempt to interpret something fundamental about reality. I don't buy the idea that it's like, you know, a humanoid thing, but at least not what you see in the Bible or the Quran. I don't think that that's like literally true.
Yeah, right.
But I like the idea that there is a layer to reality that we haven't really discovered yet, that is fundamental, and God could be thought of as that. God could also, in some ways, be thought of as consciousness or the entire everything. You know, like I kind of look at it in very broad terms, but this general belief that there is a fundamental layer to reality that is really profound and really fucking crazy is kind of my way of saying, yes, I do believe in God if we're looking at it.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I've heard stuff like that before. Like you don't have to define it as God. It can be called like source energy or something. I mean, they say like people experience that a lot in like meditation and stuff. Like if you can kind of tap into like whatever it is, source energy, it's just having that kind of belief system is like a really powerful and motivational way to be successful.
Yeah, I think if it works for people, they should use it. And I think another way to look at God would be what happens when you smoke DMT, because it turns your world upside down in a way that spits in the face of everything science has accomplished, in the sense that there's absolutely nothing of use from science which can help you understand that experience. I mean, maybe in the future it will be, but the experience resembles to me, well, here's the thing. There's a lot of overlap between DMT reports, near-death experiences, alien abduction experiences. Sometimes when people temporarily die under the knife, weird stuff will happen. And, you know, all these things have a lot of similarities. So I think that it's maybe a preview of death. Maybe it's like sneaking a peek at God or something, like the most fundamental part of reality, maybe. But
yeah,
it's so alien and it's so geometrically perfect and it's so like indescribable. It's ineffable. That to me, that's actually what got me to stop being an atheist, was smoking DMT and feeling like, who am I to pretend that I know what's going on? And simulation theory is part of this too. You
Yeah,
know?
something that fucked with my head one time is I read that like the human eye, it has I think they're called cones. You have three cones, and those are like
Yeah,
the visible light that you can see. And
yeah,
there's some species that have as much as like 28 cones, so they can see like a
yeah.
range of colors that's like thousands of times larger than what we can see. And that just shows like how narrow human perspective is.
Yes, we are only equipped with what our organs currently allow us to experience. So um, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that we don't have any kind of awareness of because we don't have the capacity. I mean, the human vision is something like the equivalent of an 8K monitor, which you would kind of think, oh, that's it, because we already have 4K cameras, and
Yeah.
8K is pretty good, but it doesn't let you see anything more detailed than maybe a human hair. And meanwhile, a hawk might be able to see a mouse like 1,000 feet up from the ground.
Yeah.
That must be like 20K or so. I don't know what it would be, but we're definitely trapped by our limited perceptions, and I think that if you're going to try to call the shots on how the universe fundamentally operates, then you're pretty full of it.
Yeah.
That's just it. But it's so unfortunate that the infallibility of the Supreme Being is why we have religious extremist violence, whether it's Christian or Islam. That justifies it.
Yeah, it really does.
When you have a being that cannot really be directly contacted with, but somehow has laid down like unquestioned groundwork, that's very dangerous. And religion could have been a beautiful thing, I think. And if there's any religion that I don't identify necessarily with, but that I like am very attached to and probably draw the most from, it's probably shamanism, which shamanism is not about having a god. Shamanism is about somebody who behaves as a portal between the physical realm and the divine, psychedelic realm. And the shaman's role is to heal the sick by taking them into that world, and they'll sing songs, and they will perform rituals and to assist the visions. And it's not like they're telling you what the visions mean, because they don't even know. They don't pretend to know. They just know that they can create psychedelic compounds that will put you into contact with the spirits, and then you can try to heal some of your mental wounds. And I identify with that much more than Christianity or Islam or Judaism or anything else.
Wow.
Because shamanism isn't something that requires, like, I don't know how to put it really. Being a shaman is not something I'm trying to be, but I might have shamanistic behavior from time to time. Like, I may, administer something to someone and try to guide them through something. And, and boy, that'll take you to the deep end, though.
Wait, what does that mean? You have like a friend or something that might have a problem, and you would you say administer something? What does that mean?
Well, like give them mushrooms.
Really?
And then maybe try to guide them through the experience, or just simply try to, and of course I'm just telling a story here.
Yeah, they're open to this, right? You're not like dropping roofies in people's. I'm just kidding. I'm fucking with you.
Mushrooms are tasty in pizza, and sometimes you just want to get somebody some pizza toppings. But the point is, that to me is sort of like how I practice religion, is by doing stuff like that, or practicing mindfulness or meditating. So it has a use to me, but that kind of, I was talking about going off the deep end with psychedelics, and that could kind of bring us into trying to describe. You wanted to ask about asexuality because I brought that up in the forum.
Yeah, that's right. You made that thread called the dreaded S word, and I'm sorry you had to deal with all that shit that was going on in that thread.
I don't care. I mean, I don't even remember it. I just know that people probably didn't quite understand what it meant. I don't think I really understood what I was trying to get across either. But
well, I think what you were talking about, if this is how I perceived it. You said that the thread was called the dreaded S word, and I think you were talking about how taboo it is to talk about sex. Like it's kind of like depicted as a joke in like all these TV shows and stuff, but it's like a very difficult thing to talk about with people that are like intimate in your life, you know?
Yeah, and also just talking about your own personal, thing can be difficult. I don't really have any reservations about that, so I'll talk about anything. But basically, I'm a 32-year-old male. I've never had intercourse, and probably almost every sex act you could name, I probably have not done it because I just don't really seek it. And so that kind of sounds okay. Maybe he's asexual, but I am with somebody that I love dearly, and I'm sexually attracted to her. And I'm into fat women. That's like a fetish thing. So it kind of sounds like that there's sort of a straight thing going on and a fetish thing going on, but somehow also an asexual thing. And then to mix that all up, because of my exposure to psychedelics and maybe just how my mind works, I had a breakdown of my sexual identity in November where it was kind of like taken away from me, and I couldn't really decipher between any different orientation. They all felt like the same.
Wow.
And it was really weird because I was like feeling really attracted to like a male friend of mine, but I didn't want to jump his bones because if he pulled down his pants, I'd be scared and be like, I don't want to do that. You're like I'm really in love with you as a human being at this moment, and you're a beautiful creature, but I don't really want to like jump your bones, But I did feel this sense of like being all the different orientations at once, and it never really fully left. But so there's this pansexual like element in my mind, but I only really want to be with a woman. I don't really want to do anything else. So it's a very complicated kind of tapestry there, and I don't use any one particular term. Queer might work because queer is a way of saying like I'm not a traditional label,
Huh.
I'm kind of a mouth.
I mean, I'm personally heterosexual. I'm happily married, but I'm not trying to say I'm not empathizing with you. I'm interested in knowing. I'm trying like it, and I mean the way you describe it doesn't sound that complex, but I never met anybody like that before.
It can be complex for me because sometimes I'll think like, am I getting like gay feelings? Do I like want to blow guys or something? And I'll examine it in my mind and I'll be like, not really, but there's this weird understanding of like gay stuff and like lesbian stuff and like other stuff, like this kind of like, yeah, okay, you know what I mean? Like It's really hard to explain, but it's sort of like this grown up sympathy, maybe, or maybe I don't really know how to describe it because, like it got weird for a while because I thought like, do I like guys or something? And I actually looked up some gay porn to like see if I was into it. And I was like, oh no, I don't care for that. And it was not really like traumatic or anything. It's just dudes.
Yeah. Well, gay porn is like, scary.
It's what?
It's scary. It's scary to me.
Yes, it was scary. I was like, oh, no thanks. It was like really
it's intense.
Yeah, like it was kind of an eye opener, and it gave me a lot of relief because I was kind of having some trouble understanding myself at that time, which was just very recently. But there's an ambiguity that I guess I'm learning to live with. That's in there. That where you know what I mean? Like I have my boundaries because I my fantasies and my interests don't revolve outside of women. But there seems to be this playful part of my mind that will explore other possibilities, even though those possibilities aren't really things that I plan to do or on my radar.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Is that like difficult to explain to your like friends and family? Do you like keep that from people, or is that?
I tell everybody everything. Everybody knows. I don't have skeletons in the closet. Like if somebody tried to blackmail me, I'd be like, my mom knows about that.
You're a brave man.
Well, it's
well, I
not
mean,
like
I guess there really isn't any reason to keep it away.
Well, I mean, I try not to be needless about it. I used to be very upfront, and now I just kind of, if it's like, if it comes up, it comes up. But like, it's made me kind of just more comfortable because like, I have a comfort around people that I don't think I had before. But I also have an anxiety that sometimes is there because I know that I have like this strange part of my mind that will go to strange places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I do have an OCD thing with like intrusive thoughts, right? Well, just have like random flashes of thoughts of sex or violence, which I think most humans have those random flashes from time to time.
Yeah, I think I do too.
But they're very prevalent with me. Sometimes it'll be like throughout the day, and sometimes it might be a whole week without really much going on. And you know, I know that that's part of what's going on, and I try to just. It's almost like the like the pervert in class that keeps making jokes, and you're just like, okay, yeah, you know, like real funny, Steve, and
it just starts getting very weird after a while.
But I don't repress it. I let the thought. I'm just like, hey, just let's do this. You know, I let them come through, and I just, you know, I mean, like despite the fact that I'm probably like much more sexually timid than most people, and like has almost no experience, you know, I'm probably more comfortable in my skin that way than a lot of people because psychedelic experiences will make you more comfortable with everything.
Yeah, and, well, it's a very comforting feeling to know that you're not being fake with people. It's actually it's a very weird it's a very weird like comforting feeling to be like really to just kind of like let loose and be very honest about and upfront about things that you want and your ideas and your passions and your goals and things like that, and just telling people how you really feel about things. Like when I was when I signed up to the Doom Forum for the first time, a challenge that I was dealing with a lot is I had trouble finding people that liked video games as much as I did, and that was what was like most attractive to me by the internet. But now I'm just kind of like, I tell people that I play Doom all the time. I have a Doom tattoo. I tell people that like. I like to watch speedruns. I like to design my own levels. I tell people all the time, like sometimes within meeting people for a few hours, I just tell them. I don't think there's like any reason to be protective about it. There's just, I mean, it's something that I really like, and I like, and it feels good when people know.
You're talking about like in real life, like
yeah.
when you meet people.
Yeah, I do. I tell people that I design Doom levels and stuff.
I tell people who I think will understand what that sentence means. Because there's going to be some people that are like, okay, whatever. And it's exciting if you meet somebody who's into it, which is why QuakeCon is fun because you meet a lot of people who are passionate and I'm so
like-minded.
I live in Dallas and I can actually go to QuakeCon.
That's pretty cool. I've wanted to go to that. I've never been to one before.
They're pretty fun. I mean, there's only so much I can do because they have like this bring your own computer thing where people like set up their computers and network games. Like I'm not going to do that. That's too much trouble for me. But but you know, like.
So if you don't bring your own computer, what do you do? Do you just walk around and what is it like?
Well, okay. So you know. Sometimes there's a keynote speaker. Like when John Carmack was still there, he would sometimes do little keynote speeches, and they let you try out new games that they're working on, and there'll be like opportunities to kind of test out a multiplayer thing, or there'll be a raffle contest to win something, and they'll have merchandise. And because it is owned by ZeniMax and Bethesda, some of their stuff is there too. So it's kind of like almost like a video game convention for those three companies, and they have like
cool.
Doom tournaments and stuff like that, and they really try to cater to the crowd. Like like, I guess, my nerdy sort of fantasy would be to bring my computer up there and like work on a map with somebody, like find somebody up there, and then like we start working on a project or something. People could do that potentially.
That's actually that's really interesting, because making Doom maps is a very like solitary activity, and people have been talking about wanting like a multiplayer Doom map editor for a long time, and it's never happened.
Oh.
And it's I can imagine, like, I've had difficulty like working on projects with other people before. I mean, I've made a lot of like pretty good projects with other people, but I've also the communication's a little difficult, and I imagine how fun it probably was to design the original Doom games in an office where you can just kind of go into someone's office and see what they're working on and talk to them like directly about it. And there's kind of like lost communication using the forums.
It is, and because you've got people from different parts of the world that have jobs and are probably in different time zones. I mean, that's like that. We talked about that Doom 3. I think it's called Phobos.
Yeah.
Like, it's taken these guys like over 10 years because it's like 3 dudes trying to work with this advanced 3D game, and it was really neat seeing in QuakeCon it was kind of like, I don't know, I guess they called it the BYOC room, and it was like this warehouse-sized room of just nothing but people with like their pimped out like desktops. Like, people really get carried away with like decorating and kind of having these really elaborate towers and stuff. That's actually pretty neat too. Just the spectacle of it, and it's not. I don't know. It's not like an anime con or a comic con. It's kind of its own thing, and I'm not really a con person, but I like going to that, and it's just really neat and friendly, and they made such a big deal in 2014 when they did that closed room thing for Doom, and I was one of the lucky few who saw that, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, to see it for the first time, and that was really cool of Id to do that. I mean, I know it sucks that so many fans didn't get to see it, but to kind of let people know, hey, you're in the area, you might as well. I don't know, but.
Did you did the game end up looking a lot different than what you saw in the room?
Not terribly. I mean,
do you remember any distinct differences?
Like, I remember they showed Foundry, and there were things that were like in different places than they were in the final game, like just slight level changes, and but most everything was there. Like, it was real close to how it ended up looking. I remember the graphics weren't as good as the final product. I remember.
Oh, that's cool.
It seemed like it looked a little better in the release, and but everything was basically there, like the glory kill system and all the weapons and stuff, and it kind of seemed like they designed the Foundry and maybe one other level to kind of like have a bunch of cool stuff in it, like to introduce you to the so like they introduced too many monsters and weapons on purpose. Yeah, and then it's like different in the actual game because it's more. That's right,
because they're trying to cram in a lot of content in a short amount of time. They don't want to play through the entire game to show you everything that's in it.
Yeah, they just wanted to try to show off as much as they could using just 2 levels. Like, I understood why it looked different, but Jiminy Cricket, there were people who got so up in arms about the fact that the enemies kind of had these spill outs of health and armor, which was kind of like people thought that was blasphemous, and I thought to myself, it's really arcadey, like the original Doom. Like, that's the first thing that I thought.
Yeah, I thought it made perfect sense, especially because in the game, when I first played it, Doom 2016 was like the newest game I've played since like maybe like Call of Duty 4 for the Xbox 360, and like before that it was like Half-Life 2. I never even played anything between that, so like I haven't been keeping up with a lot of modern games. And when I played Doom 2016, I was distracted by every tiny little object. Like, I mean, there would be like Chinese takeout boxes in the corner and like magazines over here, and I wanted to look at every single thing. because there's just so much junk laying around, and I kept like it kept distracting me, and I couldn't I thought I was looking for items and I couldn't find them, and it's just but there really wasn't anything to look at, and it's I'm actually very thankful that the items would just drop out of the monsters, because I couldn't imagine how fucking crazy it would be to like decipher like what objects on the floor are trash and what are usable items.
Yeah, and I think that there's already kind of a treasure hunt going on with the stuff they do layer, because they do put health and like ammo, like kind of like ammo boxes around and stuff like that. So there's already stuff in the environment, and it's just easier when you're in the midst of battle to have some pickups. And I just thought it was so funny how there were people that got so butthurt about it because they wanted it to be the exact same mechanic as before, and it's you start to see the nut jobs that are in the Doom community. These kind of like really OCD people who like I think there were some people that would say stuff like, "That's not how the Baron's supposed to look," and it's like it's not your game.
Yeah, that was the impression that I got when like around the time Doom 2016 was coming out. Was that I couldn't. I don't think the people that were. I don't think there was even a possible way to make a Doom game that would satisfy every single Doomer ever.
Yeah.
I think everybody has a very wild, different interpretation of what Doom is to them. So like, I don't think there was any like. I think the way I see the new Doom game, I don't play it nearly as much as I do Doom 2. I still play Doom 2 today, and I haven't played Doom 2016 for probably a couple months now. But and it's not because there's anything particularly wrong with it. I think what they did was a very good job, and I think they made the game exactly how they wanted to make it. That's what they thought Doom was to them, and I think that they're within their rights to do that. I don't think it's their job to make a game that would appeal to every single person. Like they just made the game they felt like making.
I also didn't want to see like, oh, it's just like E1M1, you know, like no, I want to see some brand new shit. Now it's cool that they put the classic levels in, which was I can't find any of them, man. Maybe I'm just bad at secrets. I couldn't find any of the classic levels, but that's cool that they threw it in. But the fact that it's like, to me, I think I've talked about this. It's the best take on the UAC labs that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love this vision of UAC, but it's probably my least favorite version of Hell. Even though I really liked it, but Doom 64's Hell is maybe like has not been taught to me.
So what would you how would you depict Hell if the game was yours? Let's say you're the designer. How would you? Because you're an artist, you know what to do. How would you like what kind of things would you put in Hell for the new Doom game?
Well, I'll try to relate some imagery that maybe you've seen that kind of can paint the image that I'm seeing in my head. But you know that new game's have you seen that new game Scorn that kind of looks like H.R. Giger?
Yeah.
I think it would have a lot to do with stuff in that direction of like really creepy biomechanical, cybernetic kind of like organic stuff, which sometimes, like actually some of the multiplayer Doom maps play with that theme, but not really the single player. And I think I would have also just had more Giga, more HR Giga, just because he went beyond depictions of like a Christian. He doesn't really deal with fire and brimstone. Giger deals with like satanic and occult looking stuff and like a lot of architecture that seems very bone-like or organ-like, and a lot of just very disturbing, dream-like psychedelic scenes that are very dark and gothic. And to me, that was what I was kind of hoping the Doom 16 Hell would have a bit more of, but it was really just your standard fire and brimstone, and there was cool touches, but I really would have gone in a crazy, way out there, psychedelic Giger kind of, you know, just really, really no holds barred kind of thing, you know. And Doom 3, kind of did that a little bit, but again, I think its hell was a little too fire and brimstone as well.
I actually kind of liked it. I liked the.
It was cool.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked the flags and like the pentagrams and all that stuff and the torches. It did kind of, it reminded me of like maps like the Unholy Cathedral in Doom 1. Stuff like that.
I wanted to see like a Morbid Angel album cover.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because I guess like that has more overt demonic architecture in it, kind of thing, and there were some really great scenes in Doom 16, but I just wanted to see more. I just wanted to see the artists really let loose and go nuts, and I felt like that it was almost like too consistent.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was still cool, and it was still like that first time that you step into hell and the string, the kind of like string part of the arrangement of the music, and then like you see the fire. I mean, it really was. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. So it was really effective on a certain level. But honestly, hell is more fun in multiplayer just because they got a little more creative with the hellish multiplayer maps.
Yeah, the maps are more wacky.
Because there's like these weird like where it's going in between hell and UAC.
Yeah.
Like within level, and there's like stuff where you're like floating in like kind of a low gravity in some areas, and there's stuff that almost looks like medieval, and it's pretty cool. I wish there was more stuff like that in a single player.
Yeah. Yeah, there was there was one level in Doom 2016 that was in hell, and it was like the color tone was like very like bluish, like cold almost, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like an ice level, like hell is frozen over, and I was pretty excited about that, but the tone like quickly changed. It was this level where you have to like go into there was like a giant like demon skull, and you fall into like this cave. And like the rest of the map is like in this dungeon or something. I forget what the name of the level is. I think it's like Titan's something.
Yeah, Titan's Realm or something.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool level. I really enjoy that. Like, and it actually reminded me of Doom 64's The Spiral a little bit. You have to go up this enormous staircase, and there's definitely some Doom 64 type feelings in there. And actually, a lot of Doom 16 gave me a Doom 64 feeling, and I really like that. And like I said, the UAC was treated extremely well, and it's the best UAC that I've ever seen. And because it has everything. It had like stuff kind of like the Mars City stuff, like in Doom 3, where like it's like the civilian looking areas.
Yeah.
And areas that were more about whatever engineering and technology areas, and like I remember finding a secret area that I didn't know about before that kind of had not secret, but just like kind of sort of hidden, that had like plants growing and stuff, and that really made me smile because I have this obsession with putting like plant life in my maps to imply that they have like a source of oxygen in this base. So that's cool. I like touches like that,
It's pretty cool. We're almost at like 2 hours now. Is there anything you wanted to talk about real quick before we wrap this up? I feel like we covered a lot of stuff. We solved a lot of world problems.
yeah, I feel pretty good about myself. I'll just say that it seems to me that judging by how varied and interesting these multiplayer Doom maps are, there is clearly still a lot of interest in doing another Doom game, and
yeah,
I would like to see it take another stab at Earth and see if they can make it work. And I think that if they took a more like gritty Blade Runner approach instead of like a contemporary approach like they did in the initial, what Doom 2016 was at first, because you know what I mean, like those screenshots were all pretty, but it was very contemporary looking. It wasn't really exciting to look at.
Yeah.
And if they went with like Blade Runner's future is like very dirty, but even though it's high tech, it's like very lived in and rustic.
Yeah.
And I like stuff like that. And if they went more in a direction like that, where it was like this gritty future that's being run with demons, I think, and having like demonic buildings emerge. I mean, that would be so cool to have.
Definitely.
Like just or like you're in the middle of a forest and there's all these weird satanic ritualistic looking things, and then the forest breaks way to the city, like this very long trek to the. I mean, they really could do something cool with trying to return to Earth. It's just that people are so used to Mars. They'll kick your ass to Mars, they're so used to Mars that maybe it is reluctant to try to do Earth again. Maybe they're afraid that it won't seem doomy enough.
I would kill for them to make a sequel based on Plutonia Experiment. Just like this, like kind of jungle run where you're kind of like going through like these Mayan temples and like these Victorian cities and stuff. That would be, even though it would be like really kind of like wild and outlandish, I would love to see them do something like that.
Well, there's some leftover, almost like Aztec, really ancient-looking texture stuff in Doom 64, because Doom 64 was originally a completely non-Doom game that was going to have this Egyptian theme. And
oh, really? Wow.
There's some early screenshots of Doom 64 where you can see some residual stuff from when it was not quite Doom 64, and it has an Egyptian or Aztec look to it. And so I agree that something that kind of dealt with like ancient, human civilization, but all this demonic stuff, that could potentially be cool too, or maybe mix it up with the city. I mean, there's so much potential to not just repeat, James Cameron's Aliens over and over. As far as the setting goes, like there's potential. Yeah.
Well, man, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I certainly hope. I know wrapping up, so I'll just say I just certainly hope that. I think we're going to get a new Doom game at some point, and especially if Quake Champions does well, I'm sure that'll give confidence in id to continue kind of working their core franchises, and I really hope that that we see the announcement of a new Doom in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it sounds really cool. All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and I think next time I'm going to be talking to Mr. Glide. So stay tuned for that. And thank you, Goatlord, for being so awesome. And thank you for being so open and stuff, too. It's really cool to hear your thoughts on all this stuff.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, to actually be interested. And like before, I really enjoyed doing this. I love talking Doom and making new friends and all that. So
yeah, you're a smart guy, man. You think about this a lot, I can tell.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Later.